How about that? We'll have this moment forever, but never again.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Makes sense.
makes sense, right? So make the most of every single moment. It'll be embedded in your memory forever. You'll just never be able to get back to that exact same moment. So I think that is just very, very cool. So today we are really excited. So we have Detector Neighbors with us today, and we have Korn, and they have a very interesting story to share about how they came together. Detective Neighbors is a homicide detective, and Korn is a TV journalist and personality, and a smile that you just want to swim in this man's smile. So with that, let me introduce Korn. Welcome.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm doing good, hanging in there, having a good time.
Heck yeah, might as well. You know what the alternative is.
Yeah, you're right.
So welcome. And on the phone today we have Detective Neighbor. So let me welcome him as well. Hi, Detective. How are you?
Hello. I can't complain. I'm at the beach right now at a conference, so I'm pretty happy.
Good,
That's
good, good,
nice.
good. Well, we thank you for being here and taking time out from your conference. So let's start with you. Would you tell a little bit about yourself, that of which you can share, and then about your relationship with Korn?
Okay. Well, like you said, I'm currently a homicide detective with the Raleigh Police Department, and I've been on for about 12 years now. Um, and when I joined the police department, I mean, everybody kind of joins for different reasons. Mine was a little more. I didn't necessarily want to write a lot of speeding tickets. I wanted to kind of go after the worst of the worst, so to speak. The guys that are kind of bringing down neighborhoods or causing a lot of crime. And at the time when I joined the Raleigh Police Department, I didn't fully know about all the activity that was going on in the city. But once I got on and got into what we call our patrol division, where most rookies start out, I worked in the area of Raleigh called Southeast Raleigh or Southeast District. The city's broken up into 6 different districts. So I was down in the Southeast District, and then for each patrol officer, you get assigned a beat. So your beat is a small geographic area that you're held, responsible for throughout your shift. It could be a 10 or 12-hour shift. So at the time when I got on, that was my thing. I had my little plot of land in the city that I was held accountable for, and I kind of liked that. You would get 911 calls in that area and respond to them, and it could be anything from a domestic violence call to a man with a gun, or to a shooting, or to a homicide. So at the time when I was first starting out on patrol, I really liked to ride around and get to know everybody that was on my beat, or in my area, and that could be a grandmother sitting on the corner or something like that, stopping and talking to people. Well, I always kind of get fascinated when someone is a little different than the normal landscape of people that I'm meeting. So I go to a call, and it's just what we call a check on welfare. So it just means you respond there, and you just make sure this person's okay. Sometimes a loved one from another city or state may call in and say, hey, I haven't talked to a relative in a while. So I go to this simple call, check on welfare, and I pull up. I get out of my car, and as I'm approaching the house, a young man pulls up on a bicycle, and he says, are you 2403 Baker? So at the time, our call signs are different than they are now, but at that time, that was my call sign, was 2403 Baker. So you got to kind of think that I'm looking at him going, oh, first of all, how does he know who I am, and how does he know what's going on? So I'm kind of, stumped for a second, and I'm looking at him, and I say, yeah, I'm 2403 Baker. And so he starts speaking to me in these PIN codes. He's basically asking me, do you need a check-in? Do you need a backup officer? But he's asking me in our PIN codes. So I'm like, I'm pretty, I'm like, just kind of awestruck, like, okay, hold on a second. Somebody pulling my leg. What's going on? I'm just checking on welfare. And here, this kid's rattling off PIN codes and knows who my call sign is. So I give him the PIN code for stand by. Stand by right here. I'll be right back. So I go and check on the gentleman. He's fine. I come back out, and we start to talk. And he is explaining to me how he's very interested in becoming a police officer when he gets older. And so we talked for a while, and that was the first time that I remember ever having an encounter with him. And it was I guess so important to me that I met up with another officer afterwards and told him about it. And I started giving, who you know is Korn, I gave him the nickname of 10 Codes.
Mm-hmm.
Because he could speak our 10 codes, our our coded language on the radio. So from then on, I would just run into him in between calls or in the neighborhood. And as he got older and got a cell phone, we were able to to call and keep in touch. And I'm sure he'll tell you more about it. But it was just kind of nice to be out on a call like that and meet him and know, okay, here's a young motivated kid that just kind of, when you start talking to him, kind of lights up. I know it sounds cliche, but there's just certain people that when you talk to them, they're just kind of motivated by just being happy that I guess they're alive. That they get to enjoy life. So it was just kind of one of those things where we hit it off and kind of kept in touch.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you something, Detective, before we go to Korn. Was this something that you did? I mean, having this encounter, it was surprising to you? It was one that you wouldn't have expected to have had in the hood?
Yeah, it was different because at the time I was doing a lot of I was working patrol, but I was doing a lot of I guess you could say preliminary gang work where I was trying to learn about gangs and how they operated, and I knew on the surface that kids would kind of wear the same clothes or that sort of thing, same color. I mean, but it was just kind of where I was starting to learn about the gangs that were operating. Mm-hmm. And sometimes young guys on a bike will be used as scouts, to ride around and call out that the police were in the area and that sort of thing. So sometimes it will be a negative response if I was going to a call from a kid on a bike,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it was just different for a kid on a bike to know all the 10 codes and to be so motivated about police work. I mean, even at that young of an age, I didn't know that I wanted to be a police officer. So it was really nice, and it was nice. Like I said, it kind of kept me motivated to go. Okay, this guy here wants to be a cop, and I'll do everything I can to help him out.
That's great. I mean, when I was listening to you, I was thinking, wow, that sounds like a TV show when you have that kid on the bicycle and he's chasing, the police officer. So that's really cool. So Korn.
Yeah.
So enter Korn. Here comes Korn. He's on a bike. He meets this policeman. Who were you?
I was a young guy. I was just very, I guess, interested in law enforcement. My grandmother, she actually was a police officer, or she served some time in the police department, before I could remember. And she actually raised me. My mom, she had her I guess, run-ins with the law. So she was actually in jail at the time that I met Officer Neighbors. So I was pretty much being raised by my grandmother, single-parent grandparent home. I had two younger brothers and an older sister. And there was just something in me that, I really felt like I wanted to, I guess, be of service to the community. And I mean, we're talking like 12 and 13 years old. So I was really young. And I mean, I'm not that much older now, but I was a lot younger.
Me either.
But I think at that time, I was just a guy who was just so motivated by seeing the police and seeing them help people, and knowing that there's so much that goes on in my community, because living in District 24, or the South Side of Raleigh, it's not like your average Chicago or Detroit kind of violence, but it does get a little violent where I was living, and I just saw this idea of, like, if I can kind of help my community by learning the different 10 codes, or learning about the police department, or learning what I could do so that in 5 or 6 years I could be a police officer, then that's what I wanted to do. So that was who I was. I had a police scanner. When Detective Neighbors talks about how I knew all the 10 codes and stuff like that, I don't know, for some reason I was always fascinated with police communication. So when I was young, I bought a police scanner from Radio Shack, and I mean, I had the whole shebang. I had it set up where I could listen to each channel, listen to like their tactical channels, and listen to things that were going on in my neighborhood. And like Detective Neighbor said, when I saw him come up, I knew exactly that that was 2403 Baker, or that was whoever it was, just because I learned so much about the department, not for the wrong reasons, but more so for the reasons of, okay, so this is how I can know more about the police department in the future.
And you're living in California now, right? That's where
Yes.
you're in California. And the detective is based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. So you were not in trouble. You had not gotten into trouble. You just had this desire.
Yeah, it's crazy because I think when I was 12 or 13, when I met Officer Detective, I keep calling him Officer Neighbors because when I met him he was like an officer, so now it's kind of crazy that he's like the detective or of like the homicide units. He's big, he's all big and mighty now, so I don't know who he is, but no, when I first met him, he was Officer Neighbors, and that's what it was. It was pretty much just the whole idea of the law enforcement side of things, where I wanted to be a police officer so bad that actually 2 or 3 years later, I contacted the chief of police, who was Chief Jane Perlov at the time, and I did a lot of research about programs and things that they had in the communities for like people who were my age who wanted to be a police officer. And there was this program called the Police Explorers Post, which is like a program ran by the Boy Scouts of America. So when I was about 15 years old, I assembled a meeting with the chief of police, and also like her upper echelon, like Lieutenant Smothers, who is now retired, and some other people, assistant deputy chief of police. And I actually had a sit down meeting with them, and I said, you know what? What about having a program where young kids can learn how to be police officers? And a year later, the chief of police actually started this program called the Raleigh Police Explorer Post, which was something that I spearheaded along with one of my friends, Timur Ender, who was in school at the same time with me. And from there, we kind of recruited other people who were like interested in law enforcement, and just kind of went out to our different high schools and kind of recruited them, because the neighborhood where I was coming from, it was a neighborhood where people didn't like the police. And I feel like me being a young African American male, being in the hood, and kind of having respect for the police department, and saying that not all these people are out to get us. They're pretty much out to help us and things like that. That would look good on my behalf because I'm from that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of cool to see so many of my friends who are from the hood actually say, I'm going to sign up and I'm going to be a police explorer. I'm going to learn about the police department and things like that. So, but that relationship with Officer Neighbors was the key to it, because he was my inspiration, just going forward in life, and throughout the whole time, knowing him and going on ride-alongs and things like that.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting, and there's a couple of things that I want to ask, but I think it's so interesting we make judgments
Mm-hmm.
about a person, a race, a society, a company, an organization, a religion, a culture. We make assumptions,
Mm-hmm.
judgments, and then sometimes we get to see the light through the
Yeah.
eyes of somebody else, right?
Yeah.
And that turned around. So I'm curious before I go on to where you are now and some other things, but I'm curious, detective, from what Korn was doing then, did he actually, by his way of being, did he help you in your job keep the peace where he was? Was that happening?
Yeah,
Oh, look
I
at
was
that
going to say that.
smile! Look at that smile! Oh God, I
Yeah,
love that smile. Yeah.
yeah, I was going to say that it was pretty amazing. About maybe 2 years when he's talking about getting the Explorers Post started, it was about maybe 2 years, a year, sometime after that. Once the program was up and running, and the I would say cadets had their uniforms and that sort of thing. I was at an area in Raleigh where I had been to a double homicide probably just before that, multiple shootings. We had a lot of stuff going on, a couple of years ago, that luckily through a lot of proactive policing, we've kind of been able to combat a lot of the violence in that area. But out of maybe about 10 of us, 10 officers are out there one night in this area, and this maybe about 16-year-old walks up, and he's wearing I want to say it was like a jacket with the Police Explorer on it, and was asking me if he could help. And I'm thinking like, whoa, first of all, everybody around here is going to think you're the police, man. At one point, like Korn saying, there's certain areas that we were kind of considered enemy by certain guys. Not everybody, obviously, but certain guys that were committing crimes didn't really like the police. But so this guy was, this young man came up and he said, no, I'm in the Police Explorers program. So we started talking. I said, this one we're probably not going to need a lot of help on, because I was more worried about, people getting, seeing him and maybe even targeting him, or or just, getting mad or letting their frustration out on him. And he had this young man had taken, kind of taken the opinion of, well, this is my neighborhood. This is where I live. This is how I'm going to take care of it. Mm-hmm. So I was pretty impressed by that. And unfortunately for him, I didn't get to see that young man again, just because either he had moved away or graduated. But it was really cool to see that type of, I say in like infectious motivation, so to speak, where, you see one or two of your peers that really kind of put their foot down and go, hey, maybe things are a little bit different. Maybe not every, and I say cop a lot of times, but not every cop out there is just coming to harass me or take me to jail for trespass, something like that. And that's one of the reasons that I joined the Raleigh Police Department. One of the reasons I stayed on the police department, and didn't try to go to some other department, because the people I worked with were actually, as it sounds kind of cliche, but actually come to work to go after the worst of the worst. Like the worst criminals. Like officers don't come to work in Raleigh and go, I really want to go out there and write 20 tickets today. It doesn't work that way. They come to work and a lot of them say, where's the worst area and how can I impact it, or how can I get on a team that can impact it? So it was really cool to see Korn kind of taking the leadership role at the Explorer post, and other people, just really kind of following his lead. I remember him calling me one night, and he didn't have a ride up there to the Explorer post because it was the north side of Raleigh. So I was on patrol, and I actually had a ride-along with me. And so I was telling the ride-along about Korn. I said, look, we're going to swing by and pick this guy up. I said, man, we got to give him a ride from here up to the north side. We'll be out of our district for a while, but he's got to get to the Explorer post. And we were able to go up to the post that night and get to sit on their meeting. And the ride-along that was with me was pretty impressed by that, here we have kids from all over the city, but kids that, are in areas like Korn saying that, you've got a lot of young juveniles that were committing crimes and probably wanting, him or others to go down that same path. And you've got this core group of I think kids, of young men and women that said, no, we're not going to go down that path. This is the path we're going to go. And whether they grow up to become police officers or not, it keeps them focused, and it keeps them motivated to where, they do go into other fields and hopefully take, some of what they learned in the, Explorers post, with them.
I think what's interesting is one of the points is that we hear all kinds of things about police, and not always good things, but to really hear, something inside of you, makes a difference for police and makes a difference for PR and these kids. Like Korn, you could have turned him away easily, except you were a different kind of person. So that makes a big difference.
And I think like when you talk about the I guess the negative aspects where, and I never thought about much growing up because of my background and how I grew up. I listened to a lot of punk rock music. I skateboard, and this was in the 80s when it wasn't so accepted to be a little bit different. And I've had, back then in the mid 80s, I'd had police officers cuss at me or grab my skateboard or yell at me. and it always kind of gave me a negative impression of them.
Right.
And then one day I was in Garner, just south of Raleigh in southern Wake County. It's a small town, but we were skating, skateboarding, and a couple of officers stopped us. And one officer wasn't too happy, but the other one said, "Hey, these kids skate. They're all right. They're not in trouble." And that was like one of the first times for me as a kid to hear an officer acknowledge that skateboarding's okay. It wasn't a crime, that sort of thing. And it just kind of was like, oh, okay, well, I guess, officers can be different too, and not necessarily robots.
Yes,
exactly. And that's the thing that I try to explain to people that, you can probably meet 10 different officers from a department, and for the most part, their training is the same. Their personalities will be a little bit different, but most of them's motivation will be the same. They want to do the right thing for the citizen or for the neighborhood. And it only takes, one officer in any other jurisdiction or any other city or state or whatever to do something wrong, and then we kind of all get kind of group punished for it.
Right. But it only takes one person to do something right, like you did, to make a difference with Korn. So, Korn, tell me something. Yeah. So here you are trying to become a police officer, and you're surrounded by, people who don't want to be a police officer, who are running from the law, and here you are. What did you have inside of you that was something that you could touch, you could taste, that you knew you could stand up no matter what the ridicule was, no matter what anybody said, but you had something and you didn't care, you weren't going to stop?
I think it was just that desire to succeed and to that motivation to help the community that I lived in. I really believe that, growing up in the hood and growing up on the south side of Raleigh, you kind of want to get out of that environment, and you want to ultimately help people in that environment. And I'm telling you, I grew up in a house where, God bless my grandmother, she did her best, but I slept on a bed on the floor for like majority of my childhood, So I knew that, by reaching out and, going after my dream as, at the time was being a law enforcement officer, I knew that if I was able to become a police officer and show the kids, at the time, like I said, I'm young, but I was thinking like, if I can be a police officer, then I know I'll be able to help young kids who are younger than me, want to be a police officer, and, see that there's something there. So I think the desire was just to, like, honestly, want to see a change in my community and want to see something for the young kids who were in a similar predicament that I was in, which was, wanting to, get out of that environment, but understanding that, at this time in your life, you're only given certain things. My grandmother, she didn't have much, so at the same time, I had to apply what I learned in school. I had to apply what I knew from, I guess, the community, that that's what was going to ultimately get me out of the hood, or that's what was going to ultimately, make me become a better person. And that's what it was. I think it was just my drive to be successful and my drive to really want to change, the young kids who came after me and also my community. And I believe with that drive, that's what I'm doing now, just kind of helping those kids, whether it be through school interactions, going to talking to young kids at like Broughton, Enloe, and, Longview, or whatever it is. I understand that, I guess I have this kind of crazy personality and crazy attitude about life that, we're only here once, and to make it count, you have to do something to change somebody's life. You can have all the money in the world, but if you don't do anything with that money as far as giving back in a way of humanitarian, efforts, and, what is your money for? And that's my whole idea, is that, although I'm not rich, but, I have this idea that the knowledge that I've gained from, being in the law enforcement, I guess the law enforcement field unofficially, and also just growing up in the hood and understanding that, what, I am better than my circumstances, and I can make it if I genuinely try to get out of, the predicament that I was in. So I think that's what it was. It's just a young process of just like, watching TV and watching things happen, and realizing that, what, I can really be what I want to be in America. As crazy as it sounds, as cliche as it sounds, I know I can really do it if I put my mind to it. And So I'm living witness to my dreams right now, which is crazy.
Yeah, and I want to get into that. It's so interesting to listen to someone speak about life being attainable. You
Yeah.
know, dreams being attainable. They're not like out in the ether somewhere or up in the sky somewhere. They're right in front of us. And
Hmm.
here's a man who did this multiple times, not just once. I mean, as a child, he saw that there was something and he was going to do it, and he did the best he could do at what he did. You know,
Yeah.
then now he's a grown man doing the same thing. So fill everybody in on what you are doing now, and then we're going to go back to talking some more about all of this. But what are you doing now, which is so interesting? Because remember, he's in the hood. You know, he's trying to get out of the hood, trying to help all his people get out of the hood or do better. So now, what are you
Yeah.
doing?
So right now, actually, I'll tell you a little bit about my transition.
Yeah.
So I was in college.
Okay. So
Uh,
how did you get to college?
yeah. So I went to North Carolina State University, and
How'd you get there?
I got there from just honestly, it's crazy my story. So here's a snippet of what happened. My senior year in high school, I was telling you about my grandmother being, raising us. Well, she actually got a stroke. She had a stroke my senior year in high school, which put her in the hospital. And while she was in the hospital, uh, my house burned down, while she was in the hospital because I was taking care of my brothers and my sisters, and I was away working at Chick-fil-A, and one of my friends called me, one of my neighbors called me and said, "Hey, Korn, your house is on fire." So, my house burned down. My grandmother was in the hospital, and basically, I just reached out to all my friends, and I had another friend who was similar to Officer Neighbors, who kind of like had just mentored me throughout my life, Hayes Lancaster, and he reached out to his friends, and we actually reached out to some crazy, like I think like the North Carolina State Treasurer heard about my story and basically helped me to get into NC State through some kind of like loans, and not loans but more so like
So
scholarships and
hold
things
on a
like
minute.
that.
So when you say they heard my story,
Yeah.
what was it they heard? Was it that you were just this kid who had some promise? I mean, what did they know about your story that would have gotten them to go to the Treasury Department? I mean, what
Yeah,
was it?
I think what it was is that they most people who know me, like all my friends who know me, they see that I'm like this cheerful guy, this guy who has a lot of energy, who's positive about life, and I think what they saw was a guy who was going through a hard time. I was 17 at the time, and my grandmother was in the hospital, and here I am, working at Chick-fil-A, just like the normal high school student, trying to just get a couple $100, to pay for car insurance or whatever kind of things that seniors in high school pay for. And they saw that I wasn't the average person who was relying on people to help me with things. I did have some kind of promise there in the sense that I was trying to be a successful person in life,
Mm.
and I think that's what really motivated people. They were like, this guy, he's a young kid. He has two younger brothers and an older sister, but he's more so like the head of the household because um, although my sister was older, she was not the most stable person. So um, it was the idea that I was trying my best for my family at the time when my grandmother was in the hospital, and we had nothing. Literally had no clothes, no shoes, nothing. And I think they saw that. They saw that I wasn't not doing bad things, and I was kind of trying to make something for myself by being one of the only people in my family to go to high school, and let alone try to apply to college. And I think that's what my mentor saw. That's what a lot of people in the community saw. The news, I think there were people like who actually helped to donate money from international, like Europe and London and things like that. So that's kind of like, I guess, what fueled everybody's thoughts about me, is that I was trying to do something with my life and not just I guess take the easy way out, I guess, in a
So
sense.
so let me interrupt just one second, and then I want you to go back into the college thing. You know, it's
Hmm.
so interesting because here's I think one of the things that I've learned through my life is that finding friends,
Hmm.
looking for people with a helping hand.
Yeah.
Mentors, learning from other people, not thinking I know it all. I
Yeah.
think is the way that we get to go forward easier, don't you think? Because you
Yeah,
looked
for
for
sure.
friends, you looked for help.
Yeah. I
You know,
think, I mean, without my friends, I would have to say I don't know where I would be. I mean, everything that I've done up until this point, um, it has I guess has been as a result of me relying on my friends in a way, whether it be my success with TV or my success with like helping my family to get out of the pit of the house fire and things like that. My friends have always been there. My mentors have always been there. Detective Neighbors has always been there. Has even my school resource officer, the police officer who who kind of talks to you at school and stuff like that, not just on a professional, hey, I'm the police officer, but on a more intimate, you're a young guy, not even a young black guy, you're just a young guy, you're a young guy trying to make it. And that's something that, I guess really helps people. It really helped me because I didn't grow up with a father in my life. So my father got deported when I was 2 weeks old back to the Caribbean. So to have those men, look out for me in a way that no other man has was a great thing because, like I said before, I just had my grandmother, raising me, but to have people like Detective Neighbors and Hayes Lancaster and people that just although they didn't look like me as far as like being black or whatever, it was just the idea that they took time out of their day, out of their family's lives to kind of look out for me to make sure I was okay. And it's a great thing to have people like that. It really
hmm
is. It means a lot.
yeah, it shows your you see your worth.
Yeah, for
You see
sure,
your
for
value.
sure, sure.
So you get help with your. I mean, where did you end up living, by the way?
We actually ended up. So yeah, the American Red Cross came and they were trying to find places for us to live and things like that. And one of my friends is his brother let us stay at his place for about 2 or 3 weeks. Actually, it was no, it was more like yeah, it was about 2 or 3 weeks. We stayed at his house, Mitch Lancaster, which is Hayes's brother. We stayed at his house. Like he basically had room enough for my brothers and I, and my sister stayed in a hotel because she was older and she had just had my little nephew. So it was too much to kind of have her there. There was not enough room, but basically, uh, the hotel let her stay there, pretty much like on a reduced kind of, um, I guess, fare. And Hayes's brother Mitch let us stay at his place for about 2 to 3 weeks, and then after that, we had raised some money from like just reaching out to people and things like that. I mean, I would come home with like jars full of pennies and quarters and dimes and dollar bills. People wanting to like just say, "Hey, Cornelius, we have this money that we went around the school and asked people for," and it would end up being like $100, which was crazy, coming from school classmates, but after like all the money that had been raised, we were able to rent a house for my grandmother and I and my brothers for like the next, I think, a year and a half or 2 years, where we didn't have to pay any utilities or anything like that. So I'm not sure exactly how much was set up because I didn't set up the charitable fund, but
And you were okay taking the money.
what was that?
You were okay taking the money.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think, I mean, like I said before, like we didn't have anything, and I think the thing too was that, I realized that I was in high school at the time, and I didn't have anything, so any kind of help, was great for me or for us. So I think that with that help, it definitely helped me out with school, and it definitely helped my family out because we were able to live, I think, a year and a half or so with without having to pay rent at the place or not having to have utilities already being covered and things like that. So it was definitely a great help.
And I just want to make a point of focusing on this for just a minute because sometimes we're so proud,
Yeah,
that we don't. Oh no, it's all right. It'll be all right. Oh no, I don't need it, or and just
yeah,
don't want anybody to know. But it's
hmm
it's okay, isn't it?
yeah. That's one thing I think you have to really humble yourself. in any kind of moment. Uh, I think that's just like I know most men do this, but most men are too proud or too, like they just don't want to accept things from people. But I think I just had to really say, you know what, I'm in a hard time. My family's in a hard time. There's people who want to help us out. I just have to really, go out there and help them out. I mean, go out there and receive that kind of help.
Mm-hmm.
And That's what it's all about. I think, I think it's really about just receiving that help and
Mm-hmm.
receiving God's blessing, because that's the most amazing thing. I think is just that ultimately I was blessed to have so many people care about me and have so many people who really understood what I was going through.
So
And I think that's what.
so you get help, you get into state, North Carolina State, for those of you that are listening from anywhere in the world.
Wolfpack, Jim
Wolfpack,
Valvano.
North Carolina. Yes. Oh, yes. And so you get into school, and then what?
Yeah, getting to school, and I was in school for about 2 years, still trying to be the popo, still trying to be a police officer, and one of my friends, actually, he was a fraternity brother of mine. He came up to me. Oprah had a competition going, your own show back in 2010 when she was launching her new network, where she was looking for people to be like a talk show host on her new network. And mind you, at this time, I still wanted to be a police officer, but my friend was like, "Yo, you should go try to do that." And I had like hosted like little campus events and things like that. But my friend once again saw something in me where he was like, dude, I think you have a great personality. You should try to be a host on Oprah's network. And it was a far fetched idea to me. I had never really thought about being in TV or doing anything doing anything as it relates to TV. But but I just said, you know what, I'm going to make a video and I'm going to apply. And little did I know, people started voting for me. My friends like posted on their Facebooks, on their Twitters. It went pretty much viral. I ended up with like 5.9 million votes across the country, and fourth in the country for Oprah's for the competition. And then Oprah and her people flew me out to LA, and where I did like some other auditions and things like that. I didn't make it, but that's what started my whole, I guess, venture into TV. And then the next year, I don't know if I'm going too much into it, but the
No, go
next year,
right ahead.
yeah, the next year I didn't stop there. I was too determined. It was like, you know what? Maybe I should just kind of like lay low in the police department kind of idea, and kind of really focus on this since I got so much great feedback from Oprah and her folks. I entered in another competition, and I actually won that. It was with Time Warner Cable, and their on demand show called Born to Shine, which is like a show where you interview people who are in the movie. So, for example, there was a movie called what was the Five Heartbeats, where we interviewed like Robert Townsend and people like that, or Sons of Anarchy, where we interviewed Rockman Dunbar, or if you've ever seen ESPN First Take, I interviewed like Stephen A. Smith. So there was an idea of me interviewing people, in various kinds of professions, basically with the idea like born to shine, being born to shine. So I did that, and then from there, the next year after I had graduated in 2012, and I flew out to LA and started my life out here. And I actually found this casting online to be a part of a TV show. At the time, I didn't know what it was. And then I found out that it was this show called Undercover Boss, which is a very big show with CBS, where I was the decoy actor of the show. And then I did that for 2 years, and now this is like actually like just this past week, I was blessed with the opportunity to have been in a competition where I finished on the top, and was on VH1 actually on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday of last week, and flew out from there to Phoenix to be a in-game arena host for the Phoenix Suns, which is an NBA team for those not familiar with the NBA. So it's pretty crazy. Like, I mean, it's been such a blessing over these last 4 years. I mean, of course, over my entire life, but more so like the fact that every year since I've been interested in like TV, I've had some kind of affiliation with a national, a nationally recognized TV network. So it's definitely been a blessing. And I'm telling you, I'm gonna work my hardest to get up there at the top and be able to give back as much as I can.
I'm sure. And as you listen, everyone, you're hearing somebody who's um, willing to take help. And he's
Yeah.
also willing to take suggestions. He's not sitting there when somebody's praising him saying, you'd be great at this. He's not sitting there going, nah, I'm
Hmm.
really not good. He's willing to explore. He doesn't have these closed doors that are like made of steel. He's willing
Hmm.
to take a chance, willing to go out there and, check things,
Yeah.
you know? So what is your overall, like, what do you think about yourself, I guess? Tell me what you think about yourself.
I see myself as someone who really wants to just affect change. I think when I think back to like the law enforcement, growing up, I mean, when I tell you I was into law enforcement and being a police officer, ever since I was young, like that was my thing. Was like, I
Oh
want to
yeah,
be.
well, so anybody who's going to buy that equipment at a young age who doesn't
Yeah,
even have a bed and he's buying that equipment
exactly.
before a bed, I would say is really into it.
Yeah, I went in on a police scanner, and I had walkie talkies and all that stuff too. But I think that's the thing. Like, I guess at the end of the day, I'm so determined to see people live life to its fullest, and to see people having a great time in the life that they're living. And being a police officer, you can help that because you can affect people's lives for the better. Whether they're going through domestic violence or drug abuse or whatever it is, you can change that life around for them or help them to get them on the right path. Or if it's like like detective neighbors dealing with homicides and things like that, you're affecting change by going out there finding the bad guys who are committing these horrible crimes. So I guess my whole life, I think it's been all about changing people's lives for the better. And with TV, that's what I want to do. I want to create a platform where I'm able to like give back, whether it be through kind of like interviews and different kinds of topics where I'm talking to people having a good time. But I do want to be like the next Oprah Winfrey in the sense. Well, I don't want to be the next Oprah Winfrey. I want to be the next Cornelius B. In the sense that I want to be who I am. But I do want to be able to affect change on people's lives in a way that is positive and uplifting, and to let other young black men and other people who are coming from the hood or coming from the pop impoverished areas to see that you can do it no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what your background is. Although it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of determination and dedication, but I think that you definitely can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I guess my whole platform is that I want to be somebody who can help people to show people that you can be great at what you want to do as long as you put your mind to it and really know that your dreams are valid. Know that what you set forth in your mind to do, you can do it if you just keep doing it and if you're persistent at it.
Certainly you speak my language because that's what
Yeah,
this show is all about. It's about
yeah,
breaking free.
yeah.
It's somebody listening to you. I change, break free every single week that I have a
Hmm.
guest on like you, who educates me, who inspires me, who shows me that, all along the way I'm saying something and I believe what I say, but then I see somebody doing what I
Hmm.
am saying or what I want to say or think I'm saying, and I get another little to keep on
Hmm.
going. You're like my of the week.
Wow, thank you so much.
you know? And yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
my of the week because a
Wow,
nudge. You're my nudge of the week.
wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I appreciate that. I think it's fabulous. And I think, I know that it was work, but you made it easy for yourself. We
Mm.
tend to make it hard for ourselves, but you
Hmm.
made it easy for yourself, even with all the hardship you had. You
Hmm.
saw a brighter day. You made friends. You know you didn't allow it to get you down. You held true to, you know, this having the most fulfilling human experience you could have, which is what I like to call it. Uh,
Yeah, I think the thing with me and how I live life is that I watch a lot of TV and not only that, but like I just I mean even in LA and stuff like that, you see like a lot of homeless people and you see other people who are not doing as best as they like they're doing a lot worse than you are. And I'm realizing that my life could be so much more horrible than what it is now. Although I didn't get that spot in the audition, when I, did a great job, I thought I did a great job. And although I didn't get that, there's somebody out there who's doing so much worse than I am. I just kind of have to, I don't know, I just feel grateful for life and, all the things that I've, accomplished, even though I'm not a big superstar or anything like that. That's not the whole idea for me. As long as I'm changing people's lives and like helping people to become better, I think that's a great accomplishment in itself. Just like you guys here with the Breaking Free show, there's so many viewers out there who are like probably watching this and saying, "Wow, I'm learning so much from you and from the host of this show." And I think that's just the best part about it. Is like it's not about making the most money or doing things like that. It's things like this that really people who really care about life see and notice, and they are changed based on their experiences from the various interactions with the show or whatever it is.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Some days I'll get a little note on Facebook from somebody who watched, or I'll get a private
Yeah,
message somewhere, and it's really
it's so
like,
awesome.
yeah, it
Yeah.
really is, and it's no, I'm not making I'm not making any $1 million or even $1 on doing this. Really, I don't think. But how do I know? I don't know that
Yeah.
this isn't tied into something else that I am doing that I do make money from, that I don't realize it's coming from this, and it doesn't matter. What I know is that it's about us.
Exactly.
It's about you and me and everybody out there, Chris and the detective, doing our part. Whatever
Hmm.
that part looks like. So, detective, let me ask you. I know you're there and you've been very quiet, so I want
Yeah.
to. When you listen to
Sorry.
no,
Sorry,
oh no,
neighbors.
don't be sorry. It's we want to hear it all. So, when you hear this, you hear him speaking like this, and what is going through your heart now?
Oh, that, and I think that's one of the reasons I like to keep in touch with him and know what he's doing, because to me it's pretty phenomenal. Um, Without sounding too silly, I'm quiet for a reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is to see a young man in the situation he was in, and unfortunately, I see a lot of young men that were in the same area he was in, growing up on the same block or same neighborhood, and instead of even just doing something as mundane as just getting a job, unfortunately, I'll see some young men by the time they're 18 or 19 committing homicides or robberies or shootings. And I can remember when they were 12 or 13, 14. And then, it feels really bad. You just think there's this cycle going on. And then, you see Korn going out there, staying motivated. Like you said, the reason he is, and I'm saying succeeding, a lot of people say success is the $1 million and all that. He's succeeding at his steps and what he wants to do because he's doing it for the right reason. If
Right.
he were going out there and really wanting to make millions of dollars doing what he's doing, I think he would have probably quit a long time ago. And he's right. The sad thing is nowadays, a lot of people don't believe that when someone says, I do something because I love it. I'm not motivated by money. Unfortunately for me, I tell people I was born with the affliction of wanting to be a police officer because, sometimes it's not always a forgiving job. But I love every minute of it because of situations like this where you do see the effect, where I can see, okay, I do matter in this world, and Korn matters in this world, and you do. As long as people are doing motivating things, it's wonderful. So I love hearing about his life and hearing how he's succeeding. Yeah, I do stay quiet for a reason because I don't want to sound cheesy, but you get a little emotional thinking about how he is succeeding.
Yeah. I feel the same way as you do. And I feel like it's like there's a triangle here, a very special triangle. And of course, Chris is out in the chat, and we have another very dear friend out in the chat, Suziani, and Amnon is here. And we have this thing going. And each and every one of us is a part of it. I mean, detective, you have an opportunity to sit there every day or every other week or whenever you think, and that there have been boys, young boys, maybe some young girls, that because of you, they have been able to, maybe they would have made it anyway, but maybe not. Maybe they made it anyway because, you were somebody that believed and listened to them and didn't, you know, jump to the wrong conclusion or whatever, you know? I mean, and every day you go out there and you do what you do, or you speak to young policemen, and you can truly say from your heart that we do make a difference. And,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
I do that every chance I get.
yeah,
And Korn and I have even talked about, when his schedule slows down at some point, or maybe we'll use Skype. But I do teach officers game classes, and one of the things I've talked to him about is having his influence, having him either come into the class or, Skype or some way to show them that, to make a connection with people so that, you just feel better about it at the end of the day, that you did have a positive influence, and that you can change a neighborhood or a neighbor, an area one street at a time. So.
that's right. And I'll tell you what, I've done this show for years, and there were days where we would do the show and we weren't sure if anybody was even listening. But I always would say, and I'd say it to Amnon and Chris multiple times, it's in the can. It was a great show, and it's in the can, and it was meant to be in the can, and whoever's meant to watch it's going to watch it, and it's going to change somebody, and that's all I cared about. And that's what kept me moving, you know? So, Korn. You're adorable. Let me ask you something. So your younger brothers and your sister, how are they?
They're doing pretty well. It's actually pretty interesting. I'm actually the only one out of my two younger brothers and my older sister, out of my siblings, who actually have graduated high school, let alone college. Um, so they are doing, in a sense that they're struggling, but I'm trying to my best to kind of influence them the best that I can, and get them to where they need to be. But they're working harder than what they were doing before. Like my brother was actually just locked up for about 2.5 years. He just got out of jail like last week. He's fresh out of the jailhouse, and I'm trying my best to make sure that he's on a better path, and doing things that he needs to do to kind of get to where he needs to be in life. And I mean, I could just talk about life in jail and prison and all that stuff. I majored in sociology, so that's my whole my that's what I listen to and talk about a lot. But I think that he definitely needs some help. My brothers need some help, but it's at the end of the day, it's up to them to help themselves. Like I can. They know what's up. Like they know at the end of the day that if you don't go out there and try to get a job or something like that, nobody in this day and age, nobody's going to try to help you as much as you can help yourself. And I think the statistic is, or there's things about like people who just graduate with a bachelor's degree. Like it's the norm now. A bachelor's degree is almost equivalent to a diploma, a high school diploma. And now most employers are looking for master's degrees and things like that. So I'm trying my best to just at least get my brothers to realize that working somewhere is going to be more beneficial to them than not working anywhere. But they're out of jail. One of my brothers is out of jail. My other one is doing well. He's trying to find a job and things like that. My sister, she's the same in the sense that she's trying her best to get to where she needs to be to kind of be on the right track. But I don't know. I think that just shows you that motivation. If you have the right motivation, you can definitely get to where you need to be. And I don't know. I think we had the exact same upbringing. I don't know. I don't know what it is that's different about my younger brothers and my sister from me. But I try my best to motivate them and let them know that hey, I grew up in the same house y'all did. Same, what I'm saying, like same roaches that y'all did. You know what I'm saying, like. I don't know how to describe it. I think it's just your personal motivation, and they need to be a little more motivated in a sense.
Hmm. Well, I think, and I hear you, and
Yeah.
and I would say that if I can be of any help to your brothers and your sister, you let me know.
Oh, for sure. I definitely will.
I'm good at talking, but I would say that freedom. Sometimes people think that being in a having to do something, having to
Hmm.
stick to a rule, having to do something a certain way, is is tying you down. But in
Mhm.
actuality, sometimes doing those things offers you more freedom. You know,
Mhm.
sticking to the rules sometimes allows you the uh, the wisdom to stretch them. But until you
Mhm.
stick to them, you don't know how where to stretch.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
Sure.
so but as I said, if I can help your brothers and your sister at all, just let me know.
Yeah, I appreciate
Yeah,
that. I actually
yeah,
really
yeah,
appreciate
and
that.
I mean it.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah,
I'll actually probably be reaching out to you about
yeah.
that.
Well, I'm a really good coach,
Okay.
and I know a lot of people. So,
Yeah.
and I work with people in all areas of their life. So,
Mhm.
I love to see people. Um, I love the light to get turned on.
Mhm.
You know.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and the light is there for everybody to turn on.
Mhm.
Sometimes you have to turn it on a couple of times. Sometimes you have
Yep.
to really pull that string
Mhm.
for whatever reason, you know, it's supposed to be.
Yep.
Some people it takes longer, shorter, but I think it's for whatever reason it's kind of like a meant to be kind of thing.
Mhm.
And you just
Mhm.
have to just pull the string.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
final words, detective? Any final words?
Um, no, I think that Korn's going to have the final word here pretty soon, when everybody else knows his name, other than the small circles he's been swimming
Yeah, exactly. And at such a young and honestly, Corn, the detective is so right, and you are so you have the world as your oyster, and you are still
Mm.
so young to enjoy, the work that you're doing, but also how you see the world. You
Mhm.
have a lot of time to enjoy how you see the world, and really, the world can be as great as you see it,
Mhm.
or not.
Yeah,
So, what's your
that's true.
final word for the world?
I just appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to, like, I guess, listen to my story. I mean, I think it's over. I don't know if it's overwhelming, but it's like amazing to me that, that people actually care about my story or my life. That's really interesting to me because, it's I think at the end of the day, like people, we all look for this kind of sense of validation, and it means a lot to know that I am in a way showing somebody else, or even if it's one of your listeners or one of your viewers, that I can relate to them in some way or somehow. And I think the final word is for everybody to just know that your dreams are valid and you are valid as a person. No matter who you are, no matter what your circumstances were or are, you can overcome them. I mean, of course there's going to be obstacles overcoming, the different things that you're going through, but I honestly feel like everybody has a purpose in life. And although it takes others a little more time to find their purpose in life, there's no judgment to be, nobody should judge anybody. Just kind of be kind to everybody always. I think that's the best thing, because at the end of the day, you never know who you'll need. And that's, I guess, my whole ideal in life is just
That's right.
just work hard at whatever you want to do, and be kind. you
Yeah,
know
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's not an unfriendly world.
Yeah,
There's a lot of friendliness going on. I
for
mean,
sure.
and I think there's a lot of people that have a lot of fear, and they're the ones that are acting out and hurting and stuff. But
Hmm.
if the rest of us hold true to how we see things and the goodness, then we can make things happen.
Hmm.
And so, is there anything anybody can do for you now, Corn?
um just pray for me.
Okay, you got it. You
I
got it.
think, I just finished the VH1 competition. If anybody's interested in, like, I guess, following me, or if they have questions or want to hit me up or anything like that, feel free to. You have my email address, and also they can find me on Twitter at KORN4, and on Instagram at KORN4S. So Corn4 and then Corn4S on Instagram. And reach out to me if you have any questions, or if you want me to just be me and talk to you for a little bit. I'm not really that busy right now, no, but
Mm-hmm.
I just finished filming with Undercover Boss and things like that. So I'm not really doing a lot of things right now. I'm actually looking to do more. But
Okay,
yeah, just reach
good.
out.
And I think that you will never be too busy, to
Yeah,
talk to somebody that
of course.
needs
Yeah, of
a good
course.
ear,
For
right?
sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
and it's people like you, and that's why I think your story is so
Mhm.
relevant. It's because it connects some of the dots that people need to hear,
Mhm.
and it's important. Can't hear these stories enough.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
so
I mean, and it's crazy because I don't know if you know the premise of Undercover Boss, but
yes,
it's all about people who are like going through hard times and things like that. So when I hear the stories of like the people on Undercover Boss or whatever, just watching TV, watching news or whatever it is, reading the paper, and I hear those stories, and I think about my story and how they're similar, and I'm just like, you know what,
hmm
it's good to see them overcome that, or it's good to see that they see the positive in their life, or they kind of are able to, see the positive after they've gone through the storm. So
sure,
it's really cool to see that, just to hear other people's stories. I'm
yes,
actually inspired by other people's stories as well
yeah.
because I think it's just amazing to hear about people and how they overcome so many things.
Yeah, yeah, and we can't hear enough people doing it to give
Yeah.
each of us the power and the
Mm-hmm.
impression and the confidence and the inspiration
Mm-hmm.
that yes, we can.
Yes.
So, with that, I want to thank you so very much for being here, you and your smile and your
Thank you
big
so
juicy
much.
heart. Thank you so much,
Thank
and
you.
my pleasure. And the detective, thank you so much for coming here today. I know you're very busy, but you came, and it was really important to see a detective like you having really truly impacted the life of a young black boy. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really powerful. And I want to thank
Mm-hmm.
you for that. And any young boy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you. And thank you all for being here with us today. And just, today, tomorrow, the next day, just consciously think about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Consciously think about who you are impacting in this moment. Just consciously think about what a difference you can make in just a minute. Just listen. And with
Yep.
that, right?
That's true. I agree
So,
with that.
yeah, so we want to stay in touch with you too. So we're going to make sure that we have you back and that you give us an update.
Awesome. I'm with it.
Perfect. And with that, everyone, thank you so much for being here today. I'm Nan.
You're
Mwah.
welcome. Thank you.
Mwah. Bye. See you next
Bye.
week.
Thank you.
Bye.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Health In with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Lessons of Vietnam with NCBVI members, The Tanya Love Show, Your Healthy Pet with Gisela DiCarlo. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by Atomus.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters for professionals, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.